Imagine stepping into your local store, expecting nothing more than a routine visit, whether you're there to work or simply pick up a few items. This is the kind of place that feels like home to its regulars, a little haven of familiarity amidst the hustle and bustle of everyday life. It's a store where people know each other, where smiles are exchanged, and where a sense of community thrives. But today, something is different. As you move through the aisles, you hear raised voices near the checkout counter. The tone is sharp, the volume escalating. Your curiosity piqued, you glance over and see a customer, clearly upset, angrily gesturing at the cashier. You soon realize this isn't just a simple disagreement or a minor frustration over a price check. No, this is something much more troubling. The customer is demanding that the black cashier be fired, right there on the spot. The reason? Pure and simple prejudice. Allow me to take you through this story of discrimination and resilience in the face of conflict. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. And if you like this story, please don't forget to subscribe. Now, this encounter is no ordinary confrontation. The intensity of the situation is unmistakable, and the air is thick with tension. Every customer in the store can feel it, the discomfort spreading like a ripple across the room. But what happens next is beyond what anyone could have anticipated. This isn't just about someone standing up to a bully. No, it's about a moment of courage that transforms the entire atmosphere, leaving an indelible mark on everyone who witnesses it. This is a story about how one person's bravery in the face of racism can ripple out, affecting everyone in the vicinity and setting off a chain reaction of support, solidarity, and ultimately change. To truly understand the significance of what unfolds, let's take a step back and delve into the setting, the people, and the underlying tensions that make this incident so powerful. The store we're talking about isn't one of those vast, impersonal supermarkets where you're just another face in the crowd. It's a small neighborhood grocery store, the kind where the cashier recognizes you and might even remember your usual order. Over the years, it has become a fixture in the community, a place where locals come not just to shop, but to catch up with neighbors, share news, and feel a sense of belonging. The cashier at the center of our story is Sarah. Sarah is in her early 30s, a hardworking, single mother of 2 young children. She's been working at this store for a few years now, and in that time, she's become a familiar face to many of the regular customers. Sarah is known for being efficient, polite, and always ready with a warm smile. Her job at the store is more than just a paycheck. It's a way for her to provide for her family and build a better life for her children. She takes pride in her work, and despite the challenges of being a single parent, she never lets it show. Her resilience and dedication are palpable, and she has earned the respect and admiration of those who know her. Today, though, her usual smile is put to the test like never before. Sarah has just finished ringing up an elderly couple's groceries when a customer walks in. This man, Mr. Collins, isn't here for a casual shopping trip. From the moment he enters, it's clear that he's on a mission. There's a certain aggressiveness in his stride, a purposefulness that's hard to ignore. It's obvious he's not here to exchange pleasantries or to browse leisurely. No, Mr. Collins is here to make his presence felt, and from the look on his face, it's not going to be pleasant. Mr. Collins is in his mid-50s, well-dressed in a tailored suit that suggests wealth and status. He carries himself with the air of someone who's used to getting what he wants, someone who believes that his money and position entitle him to a certain level of deference. Today, what he wants is to cause trouble, and it's Sarah who becomes the target of his ire. The energy he exudes is unsettling, a mix of arrogance and disdain that makes those around him uneasy. Mr. Collins heads straight for Sarah's counter, bypassing the baskets and carts, as if the very idea of shopping is beneath him. He doesn't glance around at the other customers or the well-stocked shelves. His focus is singular and intense. When he reaches the counter, he doesn't greet Sarah with a simple hello or even a nod. Instead, he slams his hands down on the counter with a loud, jarring noise that startles Sarah and draws the attention of everyone in the store. The few customers browsing the aisles stop in their tracks, their curiosity piqued by the sudden outburst. The store, which moments before had been filled with the quiet hum of everyday activity, is now eerily silent, the tension almost tangible. Some of the customers recognize Mr. Collins, of course. He's a regular at the store, though not a particularly well-liked one. His reputation as a difficult and demanding customer precedes him. There's a collective understanding among the staff and the regulars that when Mr. Collins walks through the door, trouble isn't far behind. But today, he takes his usual unpleasantness to a new level, one that shocks even those who are used to his behavior. Sarah, taken aback by the aggressive behavior, tries to remain professional. She's been trained to handle difficult customers, but nothing could have prepared her for this. Mr. Collins doesn't waste any time. His face is twisted in anger, the lines around his mouth deepening as he sneers at Sarah. His eyes, usually cold and calculating, now burn with an intensity that makes Sarah's heart race. He demands to speak to the manager, his voice loud enough to carry across the store. There's something deeply unsettling about his tone, as it has a mix of entitlement and disdain that sends a shiver down Sarah's spine. As Sarah processes the situation, her thoughts race. She's faced rude customers before, but this feels different. There's an edge to Mr. Collins's voice, a coldness that makes her uneasy. She knows she has to tread carefully. Sarah, still trying to maintain her composure, gestures toward the back of the store where the owner's office is located. She offers to call the owner for him, hoping to diffuse the situation before it escalates any further. But Mr. Collins isn't interested in waiting. He brushes off her offer with a wave of his hand, his face contorting into a sneer that only deepens the tension in the room. He then delivers a shocking command. He orders Sarah to get out from behind the counter, declaring that she doesn't belong there. The words hang in the air, heavy with the weight of their meaning. For a moment, Sarah wonders if she's misheard him. It's hard to believe that in this day and age, someone could be so blatantly racist, especially in a place where she's always felt safe. The other customers in the store exchange uneasy glances. It's one thing to witness a minor dispute or a rude customer, but this is something else entirely. The tension in the store becomes almost unbearable as Mr. Collins continues his tirade, his voice growing louder with each passing second. Sarah feels her face flush with a mix of embarrassment and anger, but she knows she can't let this man get to her. She's seen her fair share of difficult customers, but nothing like this. Still, she tries to stay calm. She offers to get the owner again, hoping that he can resolve the situation before it gets any worse. Her voice is steady, but there's an underlying current of determination. She's not going to let Mr. Collins intimidate her. But she also knows that the situation is delicate and could spiral out of control if not handled carefully. As she steps away to get the owner, she can feel the eyes of the other customers on her. Some of them are sympathetic, others are unsure of what to do. It's a difficult situation for everyone. Witnessing such overt racism is uncomfortable, and many people prefer to stay silent rather than confront it directly. But Sarah can't afford to stay silent. She knows she has to stand her ground, not just for herself, but for her children, who depend on her. This job is more than just a means to an end. It's her way of providing for her family, of ensuring that her children have a better life. She can't let someone like Mr. Collins take that away from her. As Sarah approaches the back office, she takes a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. She's been through a lot in her life, from the society backlash of being without a male figure in her life, to raising 2 kids on her own while working long hours at the store hasn't been easy. But she's always managed to keep going, fueled by her love for her children and her determination to give them a better life. Now, as she faces this unexpected challenge, she draws on that inner strength. She's not just fighting for herself, she's fighting for her children, for their future, and for the respect she deserves. The store owner, Mr. Johnson, is sitting at his desk when Sarah knocks on the door. Mr. Johnson is an older man, well into his 60s, with a kind face and a reputation for being fair and compassionate. He's been running this store for decades, and he's seen just about everything, except perhaps for what he's about to witness. His store is more than just a business to him. It's a cornerstone of the community, a place where people can come together and feel welcome. He's always prided himself on creating an environment where everyone is treated with respect, regardless of their background. Mr. Johnson looks up as Sarah enters, immediately noticing the tension in her expression. She quickly explains the situation, her voice steady, but tinged with frustration. Mr. Johnson listens carefully, his brow furrowing as he takes in the details. He's known Sarah for years and has always respected her work ethic and dedication. The thought of someone treating her with such disrespect angers him, but he knows he has to remain calm. This isn't just about a single incident, it's about the values that his store represents. Mr. Johnson stands up from his desk, his mind racing as he prepares to confront Mr. Collins. He's dealt with difficult customers before, but this is different. This isn't just about a customer being rude or unreasonable. That would have been a different ballgame. However, this is about racism, plain and simple. And Mr. Johnson knows that how he handles this situation will have lasting consequences, not just for Sarah, but for the entire community. He understands the gravity of the situation and the responsibility that rests on his shoulders. As Mr. Johnson walks toward the front of the store, he feels a sense of resolve settle over him. He's always prided himself on running a store where everyone is welcome, regardless of their background. This incident is a direct challenge to those values, and he's determined to stand up for what's right. He's not just defending Sarah, he's defending the very principles upon which his store is built. When Mr. Johnson reaches the counter, he finds Mr. Collins still fuming, his face red with anger. The tension in the air is palpable, and the other customers are watching closely, their expressions a mix of curiosity and concern. Mr. Johnson takes a moment to assess the situation, noting the way Sarah is standing. Her posture is tense, but there's a quiet determination in her eyes. She's ready to face whatever comes next, and that gives Mr. Johnson the strength to do the same. Mr. Johnson steps forward, his presence commanding attention. He asks Mr. Collins what the problem is, his voice calm but firm. Mr. Collins wastes no time in making his case. He repeats his demand that Sarah be fired, insisting that she has no business working in the store. His voice is filled with indignation, as if he can't believe that Mr. Johnson would even consider keeping her on the payroll. To him, Sarah's presence behind the counter is an affront to his sense of superiority, and he fully expects Mr. Johnson to side with him. The store falls silent as everyone waits to see how Mr. Johnson will respond. Will he cave to the pressure and dismiss Sarah, or will he stand up for her? The tension in the air is thick, and it feels like the entire store is holding its breath. This moment is pivotal, a crossroads that will determine not just the outcome of this confrontation, but also the moral compass of the store itself. Mr. Johnson looks from Mr. Collins to Sarah, clearly weighing his options. It's a pivotal moment, one that will determine not just the outcome of this confrontation, but also the moral compass of the store itself. After a brief pause, Mr. Johnson speaks, his voice steady and unwavering. His words carry the weight of years of experience, of a lifetime spent building a business that stands for something more than just profit. He asks Mr. Collins what the specific problem is, giving him a chance to explain his grievance. Mr. Collins scoffs at the question, his arms crossed over his chest in a display of defiance. He repeats his earlier claims, stating that someone like Sarah shouldn't be handling money or interacting with customers. He calls it disgraceful and insists that Mr. Johnson take immediate action. His tone is demanding, as if he believes that his mere presence should be enough to get what he wants. Mr. Johnson listens carefully, but instead of reacting with anger or fear, he does something unexpected. He calmly states that he's known Sarah for years, and that she's one of the best employees he's ever had. He makes it clear that if Mr. Collins has a problem with Sarah, then he has a problem with Mr. Johnson as well. His words are measured, deliberate, and they carry the weight of authority. The statement is simple but powerful, and it immediately shifts the dynamics of the situation. Mr. Collins is momentarily taken aback, clearly not expecting such a bold stand from the store owner. The other customers, sensing the shift in power, start murmuring among themselves, some of them nodding in agreement with Mr. Johnson. The atmosphere in the store begins to change, the tension easing as Mr. Johnson takes control of the situation. But Mr. Collins isn't ready to give up just yet. He challenges Mr. Johnson, asking if he's really willing to side with an employee over a paying customer. The question is loaded, implying that Mr. Johnson should value Mr. Collins's business more than Sarah's dignity. Mr. Collins's words are an attempt to reassert his dominance, to remind Mr. Johnson of the supposed power dynamics at play. Without missing a beat, Mr. Johnson responds that if the customer is making demands based on prejudice, then yes, he is willing to side with his employee. He states firmly that he will not tolerate racism in his store and that he won't fire someone just because of the color of their skin. His words resonate throughout the store, their impact undeniable. The declaration is a powerful one, and it sends a clear message to everyone present. This is a place where all people are treated with respect, regardless of their race. Mr. Collins, who had been so confident just moments before, now finds himself on the defensive. His bluster falters as he realizes that he's lost the support of those around him. The other customers, who had initially been passive observers, are now emboldened by Mr. Johnson's stand. They begin to speak up, voicing their support for Sarah and their disdain for Mr. Collins's behavior. One woman, who had been quietly watching from the side, steps forward and voices her support for Sarah. She mentions that she's been coming to the store for years and that she's always appreciated Sarah's kindness and professionalism. She then turns to Mr. Collins and suggests that if he has a problem with Sarah, perhaps he should shop elsewhere. Her words are calm, but they carry a quiet strength that resonates with those around her. Her words are met with murmurs of agreement from the other customers, some of whom step forward to echo her sentiments. The atmosphere in the store shifts once again, this time in favor of Sarah and Mr. Johnson. The tide has turned, and it's clear that Mr. Collins is no longer in control of the situation. Seeing that he's outnumbered, Mr. Collins's anger flares up one last time. He declares that the entire situation is ridiculous and that he'll be taking his business elsewhere. With that, he turns on his heel and storms out of the store, slamming the door behind him. The tension that had been building in the store suddenly breaks, replaced by a collective sigh of relief. As the door closes behind Mr. Collins, the store erupts in applause. The customers, moved by Mr. Johnson's stand, express their support in the only way they know how. Some clap, others cheer, and a few even approach the counter to personally thank Mr. Johnson and Sarah for handling the situation so well. The mood in the store, which had been so tense just moments before, is now one of solidarity and support. Sarah, who had remained composed throughout the ordeal, finally allows herself to relax. The tension that had been building in her shoulders melts away, and a small smile breaks through her previously stoic expression. She's grateful, not just for Mr. Johnson's support, but for the way the community has rallied around her. This moment, as difficult as it was, has shown her the strength of the bonds that hold this community together. Mr. Johnson turns to her, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. He tells her that she did great and that she shouldn't let people like Mr. Collins get to her. Sarah nods, expressing her gratitude for Mr. Johnson's support. The moment is a powerful one, not just for Sarah, but for everyone in the store. It's a reminder that there are still people willing to stand up for what's right, even when it's difficult. But the story doesn't end there. What happened in that small neighborhood store quickly became the talk of the town, and soon news of the incident spread far beyond the local community. Thanks to the customers who recorded the confrontation on their phones, the video quickly finds its way onto social media, where it goes viral within hours. The impact of the incident extends far beyond the walls of the store, touching the lives of people across the country and even around the world. People from all over the world see the video, and the overwhelming response is one of support for Mr. Johnson and Sarah. The store receives an outpouring of messages, with people commending Mr. Johnson for his bravery and integrity. Some people even make a point to visit the store in person, just to show their support and to meet the people behind the now famous video. In interviews with local news outlets, Mr. Johnson remains humble. He insists that he didn't do anything special. He just did what was right. But as the days go by, it becomes clear that what he did was indeed something special. His actions sparked a much larger conversation about racism and discrimination in everyday life, with many people sharing their own experiences and reflections on the issue. The video becomes a catalyst for change, prompting discussions about the ways in which ordinary people can stand up against hate and prejudice. Sarah, who had simply been trying to do her job that day, finds herself at the center of this conversation. She receives countless messages of support from people all over the world, many of whom thank her for her courage and resilience. For Sarah, it's a surreal experience, one that she never could have imagined when she woke up that morning. She's thrust into the spotlight, but she handles it with grace, using the platform she's been given to speak out against the racism she faced and to advocate for others who have experienced similar situations. The local community, which had always been close-knit, rallies around the store in an even more significant way. More people start shopping there, drawn by the knowledge that it's a place where everyone is treated with respect. The sense of unity that was sparked by the incident continues to grow, with people coming together to support each other in the face of adversity. Mr. Johnson is proud of the community's response. He always believed that his store was more than just a place to buy groceries. It was also a hub for the neighborhood, a place where people could come together and feel connected. The incident with Mr. Collins, while unfortunate, had brought out the best in the community, reinforcing the values that Mr. Johnson had always strived to uphold. As for Sarah, she finds strength in the overwhelming support she's received. The incident had been challenging, but it had also shown her just how resilient she could be. She continues to work at the store, where she's now more respected and appreciated than ever before. For her, the experience had been a powerful reminder of the importance of standing up for oneself and for others. She becomes a symbol of strength and perseverance, an example to others who face similar challenges. The impact of the incident goes beyond just the local community. The video and the story of what happened in that small neighborhood store become a symbol of hope and resilience for people everywhere. It's a reminder that even in the face of hate and prejudice, there are still people willing to stand up for what's right. As the days turn into weeks and the initial buzz of the viral video begins to fade, the lessons learned from the incident continue to resonate. The story becomes a touchstone for conversations about racism, discrimination, and the importance of community. It's a story that people return to again and again as a source of inspiration and strength. The narrative takes on a life of its own, inspiring others to share their own stories and to stand up against injustice in their own lives. The store itself becomes something of a landmark, with people from all over visiting to see the place where it all happened. Mr. Johnson and Sarah are often asked to recount the events of that day, and while they're happy to share their story, they always emphasize the same thing. It wasn't just about them. It was about the community, about standing together against injustice, and about the power of doing what's right. In the end, the incident that could have torn people apart instead brought them closer together. It was a powerful testament to the strength of the human spirit and the ability of ordinary people to make a difference. The story of Sarah, Mr. Johnson, and the customers who stood up for what was right is one that will be remembered for years to come. As for the store, it continues to thrive, not just as a place of business, but as a symbol of community and resilience. The sense of unity that was forged in the heat of that confrontation has only grown stronger with time. And while life goes on and new challenges inevitably arise, the memory of that day serves as a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is always hope. But there's more to this story than just the immediate aftermath. The impact of what happened in that small store ripples out into the broader world in ways that no one could have anticipated. In the days following the incident, the video of the confrontation continues to gain traction online. It's shared thousands of times, picked up by news outlets, and even discussed on talk shows. People are captivated by the story, not just because of the drama of the confrontation, but because of what it represents, a stand against racism taken by ordinary people in an ordinary place. As the video circulates, it sparks a larger conversation about the everyday racism that people of color face in their daily lives. Many viewers are shocked by the blatant prejudice displayed by Mr. Collins, but for others, particularly those who have experienced similar situations, it's all too familiar. The video becomes a catalyst for discussions about the ways in which racism manifests in seemingly mundane interactions, and the importance of challenging it wherever it appears. Sarah finds herself at the center of this conversation, and while she's grateful for the support she's received, she's also keenly aware of the weight of the attention. She's invited to speak on local radio shows and even gets calls from national news programs. But for Sarah, this isn't about fame or recognition. It's about making sure that what happened to her doesn't happen to anyone else. She uses her platform to speak out, to share her experiences, and to encourage others to stand up against racism. In one particularly poignant interview, Sarah talks about the challenges of being a Black woman in America, about the subtle and not so subtle ways that racism has affected her life. She speaks about her experiences with grace and dignity, refusing to let bitterness or anger define her. Her words resonate with many, and she receives messages of support from people all over the country, some of whom share their own stories of facing discrimination. As the conversation continues to grow, it becomes clear that what happened in that small store was more than just an isolated incident. It was a microcosm of the broader struggles that people of color face every day. The story takes on a life of its own, becoming a symbol of resistance against hate and prejudice. Meanwhile, Mr. Johnson's store experiences a surge in business. People who were moved by the story make a point to shop there, some even traveling from neighboring towns to show their support. The store, which had always been a community hub, now becomes a beacon of hope and resilience. Mr. Johnson is touched by the outpouring of support, but he remains humble, always emphasizing that what he did was simply the right thing to do. The community itself becomes stronger in the wake of the incident. The solidarity that was sparked by the confrontation with Mr. Collins leads to deeper connections between the residents. People who had previously been acquaintances become friends, united by a shared commitment to standing up against injustice. The incident also prompts a broader conversation within the community about racism and how it can be addressed. Community leaders organize town hall meetings, where residents are invited to share their experiences and discuss ways to promote inclusivity and equality. These meetings are emotional, with many people sharing painful memories of discrimination and prejudice. But they are also hopeful, with a collective determination to make the community a better place for everyone. Actions are taken, initiatives to support local businesses owned by people of color, programs to educate residents about the importance of diversity and inclusion, and efforts to ensure that the community remains a welcoming place for all. The store itself becomes a symbol of these efforts. Mr. Johnson and Sarah work together to create a space where everyone feels welcome. They introduce new products that reflect the diversity of the community, and they make a point to hire staff from a variety of backgrounds. The store's walls are adorned with artwork from local artists, many of whom are people of color, and the shelves are stocked with books and products that celebrate diversity. As the months go by, the store continues to thrive, going further than just a place to shop, but also a place where people come to connect, to support each other, and to celebrate their community. The sense of unity that was forged in the aftermath of the confrontation with Mr. Collins continues to grow, and the store becomes a model for other businesses in the area. For Sarah, the experience is transformative. She's no longer just a cashier, but also she's a symbol of resilience and strength, an inspiration to others who have faced similar challenges. She's invited to speak at events, where she shares her story and encourages others to stand up for what's right. Her words are powerful, and they resonate with many, especially young people, who see in her a role model for how to navigate the challenges of life with grace and dignity. Mr. Johnson, too, is changed by the experience. He's always been proud of his store and his role in the community, but now he feels an even deeper sense of responsibility. He's committed to making sure that his store remains a place where everyone is treated with respect, and he works tirelessly to ensure that the values of inclusivity and equality are upheld in everything he does. The story of what happened in that small neighborhood store becomes a touchstone for the community, a reminder of what can happen when people stand up for what's right. It's a story that people tell and retell, not just because of the drama of the confrontation, but because of the way it brought people together and sparked a movement for change. As the years go by, the memory of that day remains vivid in the minds of those who were there. It's a reminder that even in the face of hate and prejudice, there is always hope. It's a reminder that one person's actions can make a difference, that a single act of courage can ripple out and affect the lives of countless others. The store itself continues to thrive, not just as a place of business, but as a symbol of community and resilience. The sense of unity that was forged in the heat of that confrontation has only grown stronger with time, And while life goes on and new challenges inevitably arise, the memory of that day serves as a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is always hope. In the end, the story of Sarah, Mr. Johnson, and the customers who stood up for what was right is more than just a tale of a single confrontation. It's a story about courage, resilience, and the power of community. It's a story about standing up for what's right, even when it's difficult, and about the impact that one person's actions can have on an entire community. Thank you for taking the time to read this story. If it moved you, please consider sharing it with others. Let's keep the conversation going, and let's continue to support each other in the fight against discrimination and prejudice. Together, we can make a difference. Together, we can create a better world. That's it, everyone. What's your favorite part of this powerful story of resilience and unity? Which other inspiring tales would you like us to explore next? Let us know in the comment section below, and you might just see it featured soon. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more stories that uplift and inspire. And make sure to hit the notification bell so you never miss an incredible journey like this one. Until next time, remember, standing up for what's right is something we can all do, no matter where we are or who we are. Keep standing strong and keep supporting each other.